Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and although I don't know, I complain a lot and have somehow managed to turn it into a living, I do like to look at the opportunities in situations. So with just a day before Brexit, and with an agreement, basically in place, maybe it's time to start looking at some of the benefits of Brexit again. Real ones, of course, no unicorns. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. I'm going to have to start by saying I'm sorry if you are someone who still believes in the benefits of Brexit for the UK, although I'm going to describe some, they may not be what you're looking forward to. Before I get on to the benefits of Brexit, which, as I say, will not necessarily be what the Brexiteers consider benefits, I'd like to start with some of the benefits that were promised. One, we were promised that we would be able to leave the EU and still trade freely across the UK. Nope, big old customs border between Britain and Northern Ireland. Two, well, at least we can move freely around, British territories. Well, maybe not really supposed to be, because Gibraltar and Spain have come to an agreement, I gather. Unfortunately, the UK Parliament, I think, has to give its blessing. It should do. They did promise to respect whatever Gibraltar came up with. Thing is that what Gibraltar came up with was an agreement that would allow Spaniards to be able to travel freely from Spain to Gibraltar, but people in the UK wouldn't be able to freely travel from the UK to Gibraltar. Wave that blue but looks black passport around as much as you like. You're waiting in line. 3, we were promised that it would strengthen the union. There are two ways you could define this. Either we were going to add more territories to our collection, or support for the union within the existing union was going to increase. It has to mean one of those two things. I accept that it was not immediately clear. Now, the thing is, although there was a suggestion from some in the government that we might go to war with France over this, I don't think it was a serious suggestion. It didn't seem to come from Boris Johnson's office. I don't think there's a suggestion that we're going to go sailing around the world nicking countries again. So I think it's fair to assume that what they meant was support within the existing union. Little problem here, of course, I'm sure you know what it is. There is now majority support for independence in Scotland, and it's growing every time Boris Johnson opens his mouth. The fact that he went to holiday in Scotland this year actually made matters worse. Next year's Scottish elections could be absolutely brutal for that strength of the union promise. 4, we were promised an extra £350 million a week for the NHS. This promise was made by the current Prime Minister. See, at the time, I would try to argue with people, not on here, wasn't doing this here, but I would try to argue that, these promises have been made by people who are not in power. They don't have the power to implement any of these. It's all right, the likes of Nigel Farage and even Boris Johnson at the time, who was a member of government, but not someone who decided the NHS budget. It's all right, they're making these promises. They can't deliver on them. Now he can. Boris Johnson's the boss. He could easily deliver it. Doesn't seem to be in the budget there. In fact, if you take away the money that goes to private healthcare providers, if you just look at the money actually going to the NHS, the actual budget for the NHS has gone down. It's not gone up, it's gone down. 5, we were promised full access to the single market without having to follow EU rules. This seems to have gone wrong on both counts, because we don't have access to the single market. Because we're outside the single market, as far as we're concerned, there is no single market. We have to trade with 27 individual markets within the EU. And we still have to follow a load of EU rules. So they seem to have got that one back to front. It's like we're following EU rules and we don't get access to the single market. How did that happen exactly? Still, nobody's perfect. 6, we were promised that immigration would go down. It's actually gone up. Initially, after the Brexit referendum, net migration did indeed come down, But that was down to, it wasn't down to fewer people coming into the country, that was going up. It was down to more people leaving the country. There was an exodus of people out of the UK, which meant that net migration went down. But as net migration has gone up now, because the rate of immigration is outstripping the rate of emigration, you know, people leaving these shores to escape Brexit. And I'm happy to give it another year or two. There may be some people who say, yes, but what we needed was to leave the transition period first for the immigration bill to come into force. You know, that thing, Phil, that Priti Patel's put into force. That'll sort the problem out. I mean, the problem is not enough immigration, quite frankly, but okay, we'll go with that. It will still increase. It has to. Because the reality is that we need immigration, and Priti Patel aside, even the lunatics in charge understand that. 7. We were promised new and better trade deals outside of the EU. The idea, which wasn't completely stupid, didn't lack logic, was that the EU negotiates in the interests of all parties because it needs all parties to agree to it, so each individual member state wants to get something out of it. But a one-on-one negotiation can focus on just the goods and services most important to those two countries arranging the agreement. Well, that makes sense. That's fine. That's okay. The problem is that this theory is smashed into pieces by another truism that those with the most spending power get the best deals. Also, those who are desperate for a quick deal are in a weak position. The government are boasting about the Daily Express was describing it as about 60 new trade deals, they said, having been signed, worth about £900 billion. The problem is, as members of the EU, we were talking about trade worth about £3.5 trillion, and these 60 trade deals, they're not new. We have 2 new trade deals. All of the others are EU trade deals, the ones that EU negotiated and that those other countries, because it's in their interest as well, have just allowed us to copy and paste. They're not new. They're old ones. We have 2 new ones. And the 2 genuine new ones with Japan and the EU are both on worse conditions than we had as EU members. So we have 2 new agreements, neither are better. We also have dozens of old agreements which are exactly the same, as well as a whole load of blanks where there used to be old agreements and we don't even have the old agreements. So not an improvement. I could go on, but this is supposed to be about benefits. So here they are. I actually have some Brexit benefits. 1. The EU are able to make decisions on certain things more easily. It has been pointed out that the EU's €750 billion pandemic recovery fund would not have been so easy to agree if the UK had still been a member. Now, I will point out here, obviously, if we'd have still been in the EU under the current Brexit situation, yes, Boris Johnson's government would have been extremely difficult with that. However, that wasn't realistic. I think what you're talking about is a normal pro-EU UK government. But even that would have been throw spanners in the works. I know a lot of people say, well, the UK just causes trouble. And this is because the UK has always been at odds with other major powers in the EU. There are some other EU members that can be difficult as well. You know, newer members of the EU who see the EU in much the same ways the UK did. But in terms of the major powers in the EU, our interests have been purely mercantile, that's clear, whereas the other major member states have seen the political benefits of the EU. Now, that is not to say that having the UK as a member was always a problem. I have heard it said, like I said, that we often urged caution in a way that turned out to be a useful intervention. You know, that devil's advocate is actually useful for coming to correct decisions at the end. Whereas if you have a load of people who all agree you go down a path very quickly, yes, it means you make your decisions more quickly, but you don't always make the right decisions. But it does also has to be said that there were times when we just basically spoiled everyone else's perfectly conceived plans. So there's a bit of a benefit to some EU member states there. 2, the EU have added to their major financial centres as providers in the UK, especially London, have had to set up offices in the EU to mitigate the damage of a weak deal, which is exactly what they got. This has meant the transfer of a lot of capital out of the UK and skilled, well-paid staff to EU cities, generating more income for their economies and more taxes for their treasuries. 3. Oh, wait, what's that? Sorry. Oh, you wanted Brexit benefits for the UK. Oh, right, yes. There is one. I mean, well, you could say the SNP are terribly pleased with Brexit. I mean, they're not pro-Brexit, of course, but they are pleased with how it's gone. Because when I shouted at opposition parties for enabling Boris Johnson's landslide win last year, I've talked about this yesterday, the SNP at least knew what they were doing. They weren't stupid. You know, by giving the Conservatives that massive majority and helping deliver the hard Brexit, which is not their fault. They have furthered their cause in a way that they could not have otherwise done. But that's not really a UK benefit. It is a benefit to a significant number of people who are currently UK citizens. But I grant you it's not a benefit to the UK. I mean, I could say the same of Republicans in Northern Ireland, for example. But yeah, benefits to the UK. Here we go then. I suppose it's likely to represent the final days of empire. I think that's where I would see the main benefit. See, the millstone around our necks collectively is our tether to our dubious past. Now, all countries are forged in the fires of war, of conquest. But most have, by now, had their comeuppance, come to terms with it and moved on. Grown, become modern. We've not really had that in Britain. There is a minority, but still widespread view that we're somehow special. The fact that nobody has kicked us up the arse for a long while has not helped dispel that notion. Yes, we've become weaker on the world stage, but all you have to do is keep denying it and you can deny it. There's no one who's forced us to face up to it. So if nobody else was going to do it, it looks like we've chosen to do it ourselves. The humiliating course that we've set ourselves on might finally bring all the lies home to roost. It may take a while. During the Brexit negotiations, the government kept moaning that the EU were not treating us as sovereign equals. That is because we're not equal. Their economy is 4 times greater than ours. They run the largest free trade area in the world and have set the standard internationally for trade. It may not be very long before the euro overtakes the US dollar as the global currency of choice. In addition, nearly half of our exports are to the EU, but their exports to us is only 1/3 of that proportionally. Of course we're not equals. We were one of the big 3 in the ever-expanding organisation, and now that we've left, we're like one of the owners of a large company leaving and then asking if we can still share in the profits and have a seat on the board. No. Over the coming years, people will see that we fall behind in terms of economic growth compared to those we once shared our fortunes with. They will see that we are still following many EU standards. We will see just how low Brexit has brought us, and that we weren't able to go it alone after all. We're not the graduate leaving home. We are the 7-year-old running away from home because we weren't allowed the new PlayStation, and just like that 7-year-old, we'll be back when we get hungry. Personally, I am looking forward to more of my compatriots having a more humble view of my country, because there is much that I like about the British character. We are quite stoic. We understand the rules of queuing. We are generous, partly why the government get away with shafting so many people. It's because in this country we are quick to provide charity to those who need it. But there are also a lot of stuck-up people who really need taking down a peg or two, and Brexit may do that nicely. At huge cost. I'd rather we could have just learned the easy way. But it is what it is. So those are the benefits as I see it. Sorry, not quite what some Brexiteers may have been hoping for, but they're quite welcome to highlight any Brexit benefits they think may exist. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.